Wife was accused of cheating on me with me. So as the title says, my wife was accused of cheating on me with me. Years ago, my wife and I worked together at a call center where the dress code was very formal. All our coworkers only saw me in dress pants, nice dress shirts and a tie. Well, the real me outside of work is basically a mix of redneck and biker. I grew up in a biker family and I was a ranch hand since I was 10. Well, I took some vacation time off to just relax a bit and the wife didn't. I decide to ride my Holly to work and take her to lunch. Seems sweet and innocent enough, right? Anyway, I pull up and she sees me on my Holly, runs over, gives me a kiss, hops on the back, and we go off and have a nice lunch. Drop her back off to work. All is right in the world. Couple days later, my vacation is over and it's time for me to go back to work. I walk in and I'm getting funny looks. When my wife went to her desk and I was putting my drinks in the lunchroom refrigerator, 5 coworkers come up to me and tell me they have something serious I need to know. I knew these 5 people and I refer to them as the gossip group. They all told me my wife is cheating on me with some tattooed biker guy. Immediately I was like, oh boy, here we go. They show me pictures of my wife kissing me. I start laughing my ass off. They start asking me if I knew or if we were swinger or are we poly. They wanted answers. I pulled up my phone and showed them a picture of my Holly and I asked, is this the bike? They all said yes. I showed them a pic of what I normally or black tank top, bandana pulled low over my eyebrows, etc. They all started asking if I knew him or what. I have a very easily identifiable tattoo on my chest and my right arm at the time had a full Japanese half sleeve. I slid up my sleeve and showed them the tattoo. All of them went wide-eyed like deer in headlights and scurried off without a word. They were worried I would be pissed, but honestly I found it hilarious and told my wife, who also thought it was hilarious. Stories number 2. I'm a 39-year-old female virgin. I think I'm more curious as to what others think when they learn that fact. Edit for context, I'm not really interested in casual hookups and I'm an introverted person. I grew up in a small town where drinking and drugs were all anyone really did recreationally, which I had no interest in. Still don't. Everyone of my age seems to have that X or that baggage, which isn't a bad thing. It's a to be expected, but I think it may off-put me from ever getting together with someone. I don't really expect to find many in my position. It's not that I lack the appetite either. Am I that strange? Stories number 3. Aita for telling my mother that I'm not playing replacement parent to her kids anymore. I 23F currently live with my mother for 5F. A couple of weeks ago I left due to an argument and didn't come back until yesterday. When I came back, she called me into her room to talk and had her friend on the phone. This particular friend is supposed to be my godfather, even though I've never met him. When I came into the room, the friend said that he was glad that I was home and that I needed to stop lashing out and not leave again. I told him that leaving for a little while was what was best for my mental health. He and my mother both said no, it's not, and I replied with, maybe it's not to you but it was to me. And you can't tell me what is and what isn't good for my mental health. They said that my siblings miss me and hate it when I leave. I said that that's what happens when you grow up around other children. Eventually they grow up and leave and live their own lives. They changed the subject and started talking about my siblings 19M, 16N, and 13F, saying that I needed to do more to help my mother with them and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do, like chores, schoolwork, etc. I told her no, I'd been basically raising my siblings my whole life and I wasn't going to play replacement parent to them anymore, and plus she's asked me to help before and when I tried she wouldn't listen. And all she did was get angry at me and say you're not the mother I am. Besides, they're old enough to know what they're supposed to do. My mother said that she's tired and needs a break and can't work and take care of them at the same time and really needs my help. I told her that I'd been helping her without even a thank you and now I'm done and need to start figuring out and living my own life. Her and her friend called me selfish and said that I only look at it that way because of my mindset, and that I need to change my mindset and help the family more. I stood my ground and said that I just wanted to focus on myself from now on and that my siblings are old enough to know what they're supposed to do, and if they don't do it then she needs to discipline them. Her friend asked me what I think the proper discipline should be and I said that's up to my mother. He said that's too much work for her to do and asked why she should have to worry about things like that after getting off of work and said that I should do it. I stood my ground and said no, you're asking me to play mommy to them, which I'm not going to do. I'm the big sister, not the mother. They called me a selfish asshole for not wanting to be a part of the family and helping. So Aita Reddit. Few people are asking where our father is. We all have different dads. I never knew my mother and 19 megaseconds father broke up when I was 6 and I never saw him again after that. A year later my mother met and married 16 meters and 1/3's father and he died about 3 years ago. But even when he was alive I still did everything while they stayed in their room doing whatever. Stories number 4. Almost hooked up with my cousin. So I was 17 and I lived in Miami, Florida at the time, and my 2 buddies and I went to one of those lame all-ages clubs where they serve soda and play shitty music. Can kids either sneak in their alcohol or just get really drunk before they go in? So we're in there having snuck in some airplane bottles of rum that we'd gotten somewhere. The music was pumping, there were cute girls everywhere and it was foam night, which, if you've never been to a foam party, be glad they're not as much fun as they sound. We were on the scope for girls and this cute blonde took a shine to me as soon as she saw me. We went and danced, we're getting closer and closer, and then she asks me, so what's your last name? I tell her and immediately her smile drops. Oh my god, we played croquet at the family reunion like 3 years ago. Your dad is named, right? We were both mortified but we managed to laugh it off and went our separate ways. I find my buddies again and they of course were like, what happened? Where'd she go? Did you make out at least? I had to say with as close to a straight face as I could muster, dude, she's my cousin. Stories number 5. I'm in a relationship but still crave attention from other men. I'm in a very happy long-term relationship with my amazing boyfriend. He satisfies me in every way. He's everything I ever imagined in a partner. To sum it up, I'm very happy with him. Yet I still can't seem to shake the need of outside male validation. I work in a restaurant as a bartender, so I get hit on pretty often by customers, which I secretly love. There's quite a few pretty girls at this restaurant, and they get hit on too, and I always get jealous. I find myself seeing them as competition, but not just with the customers. That might not seem so bad on its own, but lately I found myself getting jealous of a coworker, we'll call her Lisa, who another coworker, we'll call Jack, has expressed interest in. I've gone so far as to even try to sabotage them becoming anything more than friends. I'd like to it. I have no interest in Jack. I don't find him attractive, and even if I were single I would never go out with him. But I still wish it was me he was flirting with, showing interest. One night after work Jack expressed his interest in Lisa and asked me she was single. I lied and said she had a boyfriend. I often feel so guilty because he's not the first. There's been other times in my life where I've desperately wished a man showed interest in me even when I had no attraction to him. My boyfriend doesn't deserve this. I know I shouldn't be craving the attention of other men and even being flirty and suggestive with a man to pique his interest. Where does this come from? Why am I so desperate to be validated by the male gaze? Stories number 6. Aita for telling my sister I won't change my hair color for her wedding. Not the whole mode. My younger sister 28F is getting married. We just went out of town to watch her wedding dress shop. She did find the dress is say yes. We went out for drinks after to celebrate, and the conversation of my 33F light lilac purple hair came up. I get a lot of compliments, out, and I think she was already a little irritated that every wedding place loved my hair. Anyway, she said, I plan on asking you to be a bridesmaid in my wedding, but you can't have purple hair, you'll need to dye it brown. My response was I worked really hard to achieve this color as it's been my dream hair color for a very long time, and that I'm not dyeing it for one day that it won't hurt my feelings to not stand up there with her and her million friends, especially considering in making her wedding cake and was already planning on finishing the decorations the day of her wedding. I told her I'd have to scramble to finish her cake, can get in for hair and makeup, and that I'm happy just sitting it out and making sure her cake is perfect. She snapped back with, you're my sister and I want you up there, it won't hurt you to dye it brown for a day. I love your hair, but it's my day and I want all the attention on me, not your hair. I simply responded back with, I still stand by my decision to sit this one out, and she just said, well, we have a year to discuss it. There is absolutely nothing to discuss in not dyeing my hair brown for a wedding, therefore I simply won't be in my sister's wedding. Aita for not letting everyone's opinions and guilts make me change my hair for her big day. Edit to add. During our conversation, I did make a joke about wearing a wig and she didn't find that funny nor seem keen on my solution. I also Mention slicking my hair back into a low pretty bun so facing frontwards, you wouldn't really see much of my hair. That also wasn't a good solution. I did also tell her I would consider lightening my hair to a silver platinum, and that way I could easily have it changed back to my lilac. I know it's an issue because my mom was defending her, stating it's just hair, and I can change to back from brown. Not the case obviously. In dreading this conversation coming up again. I am a baker's side gig and I happily offered to make their cake. It's something I enjoy doing. It's always been something we talked about, was me making her cake. However, it's a very extravagant for tier cake that is going to be very flowered up in my mind. I assumed I wouldn't be asked to be a part of her wedding party since I told her the morning of her wedding I'll stack the tiers and get the flowers placed how she wants, and I'd just be in my own little world getting that perfectly together. Never in a million years I think there'd be an issue with my hair being in the wedding and getting the cake together all at once. Stories number 7. The time I accidentally gave someone PP rice and they deserved it. I had a neighbor friend that loved cooking red beans and rice, but he never seemed to have rice on hand, and it gave him a good excuse to come visit me and take a cup of my aromatic basmati rice that he liked so much. He would come over, chat, drink a cup of coffee. I'd give him a cup of rice. It was a fun exchange. Until I was going through a divorce. And he and his wife were a little too involved in my divorce, and I learned that they weren't trustworthy marble jar friends. So one day he came over and I was frazzled and not in the mood for banter. I felt a little used too. So I opened up the big cabinet where I kept my Costco-sized 25-pound bag of basmati rice in the brown burlap bag. I would normally pick up the big bag, scoop out a cup, put that into a small Ziploc and send him on his way. But this time there was a gallon-sized Ziploc with a lot of rice in it beside the 25-pound burlap bag of rice. I did not know why it was there. This isn't how I typically store rice in my house. But it looked like a great opportunity to give him a few cups of rice at once so I could get some peace. So I gave him that rice in the gallon-sized Ziploc and sent him on his way to cook it. But I kept thinking for a couple days about that gallon bag of rice beside the normally enormous bag of rice. Why was that there? Why would I doff it? And then I remembered. A few days before I had dropped my phone in the toilet while I was peeing. Like any good American, all I know to do after a phone is exposed to water or pee water is to throw it in a bag of rice. So I did that. And then unfortunately somehow, amongst the stress of the divorce, I guess I didn't discard the PP rice in the trash can, but instead I put it in the cabinet with the other rice. So there's the story. I really hope the statute of limitations has expired on PP rice because I just couldn't hold this story in any longer. I wouldn't blame you if you don't want to eat rice at my house in the future. Thanks for letting me share. Stories number 8. I hate human beings. Nowadays humans are toxic cringe losers to me. But the people who also hate animal abuse, oh my, I love them so much. It gives me hope and love in humanity once more. People on Reddit who also hate animal torturers and love animals and want to defend them and kill those people who torture animals. Oh man, I love those kind sweet people. I love them so much, but if they hate God, then I don't love them. I don't care for humans dying. Why? Unless it's like a specific story of, let's say, a sweet innocent person torture and abuse, that's messed up. Or a guy whose wife stole all his savings he worked his life for and gave them to her lover she cheated on. I feel bad for him. Even if he killed his wife and himself, he will get riches in heaven, though it's okay. But generally I don't care for Gaza. I don't care for any of them who die. They love to play victim. Cheered on October 7th. Muslims murder Christians every month in Nigeria, Ethiopia, Pakistan, Indonesia, and kidnap Christian Egyptian girls and make them their bride, and then they play victim on Gaza. I don't care. I have no sympathy like at all, but for animals. Sweet innocent animals. My heart is for animals. They just are so innocent and cute. Their faces, everything about them isn't cringe and human toxic. Stories number 9. Aita for not allowing my mill to see her grandchild anymore. I 28F have a newborn baby and like many new mothers have been dealing with a lot of stress and exhaustion. My mill 55 is known to be very controlling and has been constantly comparing me to my sil since I got pregnant. Despite her comments, have been trying to keep the peace and put up with it. My newborn hasn't been sleeping much and have been only breastfeeding. One day I was completely exhausted and decided to take a nap, leaving my newborn with my mill for a few hours. When I woke up I found my mill asleep. I checked the fridge and noticed all the breast milk I had pumped was still there. I asked her about it and she told me she thought my breast milk was causing the baby's sleeplessness because of my stress, so she decided to give her formula instead. I was furious. It'd been very clear about wanting to exclusively breastfeed and she knows this. She disregarded my wishes and made a significant decision about my baby's feeding without talking to me. In my anger, I kicked her out of the house. My husband has been supportive about this and has accepted this. My sil recently texted me saying that I could be depriving my baby of a relationship with her grandmother and that my mill was just trying to help. This is the only reason I feel like I might be the I don't want my feelings to prevent my daughter from having a relationship with her grandmother, and I feel like the for putting my husband in between this whole thing. Stories number 10. Never drink a whole bottle of Pepto-Bismol. Okay, story time. So at the beginning of the year I got really sick. I had the worst stomach flu. I'm talking explosive diarrhea every 5 minutes every time I took a dump. It felt like a mixture of number 1 and number 2 that can only be described as number 3 was violently shooting out of my asshole at terminal velocity. Enough was enough. It was 6 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd day of my horrible flu experience and I was already on my 7th shit of the day. I couldn't go on like this. I knew what I had to do. I limped over to my medicine cabinet holding my violently gurgling gout and downed a whole bottle of Pepto-Bismol. Oddly enough, as soon as I drank that bottle of Pepto, the gurgling slowly stopped. I felt pretty alright for the rest of the day, and I was relieved that I could finally eat again without shitting myself. I was so hungry I pretty much stuffed my face with food all day. Then the next day came. When I woke up that morning, I felt like I had to take the biggest shit of my life. But this one was different from the flu shits I had endured. It felt solid and heavy, arguably more intimidating than the shits I had while I was still sick. But I knew I couldn't hold it in forever, so I decided to go to the bathroom and just get it done. I knew this one would take some effort to push out, so I got as mentally prepared as I could and began the push. I started slow and steady, but nothing happened. If I wanted to take this shit successfully, I was going to have to rev up the power a little more. I slowly started pushing harder and harder until I was pushing so hard I could feel the veins in my neck bulging out and I felt like I was going to pass out. Finally, 2 hours into the ordeal and after a terribly long bout of pushing, I finally heard a light squealing sound. It turns out there was a gas pocket behind the shit and the squealing sound was a fart trying to leak out. I began to push harder and I never could have prepared myself for what happened next. All I remember before I blacked out is hearing a sound like a potato launcher shooting and a massive force pushing me forward into the bathroom wall. When I woke up I was dazed. The first thing I noticed was that there was a dent in the drywall, where I must have smashed my head from being pushed forward with such force. The second thing I noticed was that the toilet was demolished. Something was odd though, there was no water anywhere. Next I felt a burning sensation on my ass cheeks. It felt like I had been burned with a hot iron. Then it came to me, I had pieced together the events that had ensued before I blacked out. The pressure of the gas behind the shit had built up so much that when I actually pushed it out, it shot out with such force that it demolished the toilet. Even worse, the friction from the velocity at which the shit shot out created so much heat that it left third-degree burns on my ass cheeks and evaporated the water in the toilet. I started getting dizzy again, so I stumbled over to my bed, intending lay down for a bit. But still, I guess, hadn't finished the deed yet because I tried to let out what I thought was going to be a little fart, and instead a flurry of small pebble-sized shits started shooting out of my ass at bullet speeds. They shattered my bedroom window and penetrated through my wall and into the hallway. Each shit bullet that flew out was agony, and I couldn't do anything to help myself. When it finally stopped, I was so physically and emotionally drained, all I could do was lay there in a puddle of my own tears with severely burned ass cheeks and a demolished toilet in my bathroom. It is now my conviction that I must share my story in hopes of preventing this from happening to anyone else. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. I'm going to end this story by saying that I can't stress enough how important it is that you never, and I mean never, drink a whole bottle of Pepto-Bismol in one go. Stories number 11. I saw a homeless man out of his wheelchair and didn't even slow down. I made this account just so I could confess this. I'm a 17-year-old girl about to be 18, and I was driving my sister's friend to her mom's work at a public school. I'm very privileged white private school, and I'm embarrassed to say that I was pretty nervous around the sketchy area. Anyways, you know those slope things underneath highways. I live in Texas, where there's a pretty big homeless population and you'll usually see tents or shopping cars, so I wasn't surprised to see a wheelchair there, but the problem was that there was someone lying on the ground in front of it. I didn't stop or even slow down. Their back was facing me, so I couldn't tell if they were asleep or dying or awake or dead, and they had a hoodie on and a bright yellow cast, but they were sprawled out on the ground, and I just kept driving. I dropped off my sister's friend and drove back to my house, and I saw them again in the same position. I didn't do anything. I know I should feel guilty, but it doesn't feel real. I haven't told anyone about it. No one else in the car saw or said anything about it. I didn't want to get out of the car. BC, it wasn't an area. Ew, fuck it, I was uncomfortable. BC, it was poor. And I was scared. BC, I'm a little white girl, but more than that, I just didn't want to deal with it. Have I just been so desensitized to the world that I don't care if I see someone that was in desperate need? I keep telling myself that they could just be sleeping, but they were positioned in such a way that it seems impossible. Plus, a homeless wheelchair user would most likely just sleep in the wheelchair. It seems the most likely explanation was that they fell or were pushed out of the wheelchair. Were they dead? Dying? I haven't told anyone. It was 3 days ago, and I didn't call any authorities in those 3 days. What if they died and I did nothing? It's too late to do anything, and I'm too afraid of how my parents would react to tell them. What the hell is wrong with me? What was I meant to do? I feel like I'm going to be sick. Stories number 12. Aita, for leaving my stepsister's wedding reception where I was supposed to be taking pictures. Not the whole. I am a professional photographer, mostly industrial photography for businesses and such. I do other types for myself and as art. I love taking pictures of the old architecture in my city and of the surprising wildlife in it. My mom asked if I would be willing to take pictures for my stepsisters' wedding to help them save money. She asked me to do it as a gift. She knows that Tina hates me, and I pretty much reciprocate. I decided to be the bigger person and agreed. I was there for the makeup and the wedding party, getting dressed. I took a ton of pictures at the wedding. I prepared a checklist of all the different formals she wanted and made sure I got them all. I did my absolute best. When I got to the reception, there was no place for me to sit. I had gotten there right away so I could get pictures of the wedding party arriving and all that. The wedding party had stopped to use the bathroom and get freshened up. I called my mom to find out where I was meant to sit and eat and stuff. She talked to Tina and called me back. She was upset, and I could tell. She said that Tina thought since I was working and not a guest, she didn't have to have a seat and food for me. I thanked my mom for the information and left. I took my boyfriend, who was my assistant that day, and we went out for dinner, my treat. We had been on the go for 8 hours by then. I turned off my phone. We had a nice night out and we saw the new Mad Max movie. Sunday morning, I turned on my phone. It was full of messages asking where I went, then demanding I come take pictures, then cursing me out. I called my mom to see what was up. She said that Tina was very upset that I left and that all her reception pictures were going to be from cell phone cameras. She said I should have just gone to get a quick bite at McDonald's and then come back. I told her that I felt terrible and would of course give a full refund. I also said that this was the last straw and that I did not want to hear shit when I did not invite Tina to my wedding next year. Tina obviously thinks I'm an asshole, and my mom thinks I should have kept the peace. I am just going to drop off a thumb drive with all the pictures and wash my hands of this. No editing. No nothing. Stories number 13. Is this a kid's joke I'm missing out on? Short dumb man, I guess. Funny story. I did smoke half a joint after work, but otherwise I was hanging out in the kitchen with my 13-year-old son, preparing dinner. Across the house, my wife spied me starting to run a tap so I could rinse my knife while scaling a salmon. She called out, "I don't think you're supposed to put salmon underwater." I didn't really reply to her, but at a low volume said to myself, "It's a goddamn fish, Kate." My son nearly inhaled a strawberry and fell over laughing on the couch. My wife thinks it's stupid. I don't get it. Stories number 14. I saw my coworker's butthole. She was showing me pictures of her boyfriend, and she keeps swiping and I see a picture of her butthole. The whole thing flash and all. She quickly rips her phone away and pretends like nothing happened. Only thing is, not sure if it's her anus or her boyfriend's. Either way, great way to start my day at the office. Edit. I am a woman and my day was not made, but it is definitely a story I will reference for years to come. Rip to my corneas. Stories number 15. Aita for telling family and friends that I'll perform at your wedding for free, that's your gift. Not the a hole. I too for play the saxophone to a very high level, not quite professionally, but have been in orchestras, ensembles since I was 14. When my sister got married 4 years ago, she asked if I could perform a few songs at her wedding. And of course I said yes and refused to take any money from her, as still got her and her husband a nice gift. I spent a significant amount of time and effort perfecting and memorizing her list of songs, which I had absolutely no issue with, because of how well it was received at my sister's wedding. I have had family and friends ask if I could do it for them as well. I always said I would, but it would be my gift to them and they wouldn't be receiving anything else from me. I have had split reactions from informing the couples about that caveat. Some understand and take it well, and others have claimed that I am cheap, selfish, and that I should just do them the favor. I try to explain that it takes a substantial amount of time to learn, perfect, and memorize 5 to 10 new songs, and that my time isn't free. Some have even gone on to say because I played for my sister and got her a gift that they should get the same treatment. At some point I usually say something along the lines of, here are your options. I perform for free, that's your gift, or if you want a gift and a performance, it'll cost $100 a song. Aita for don't it. Stories number 16. That time, I caused an insurrection in Chuck E. Cheese. So this is back in maybe 1992, and I'm a hyperactive kid with a big imagination who may be a little brighter than I need to be. We're at Chuck E. Cheese, formerly a Showbiz Pizza. It's my older cousin Pat's birthday. I'm forced to go because my dad is doing something else. I'm not sure what, but he just dropped me off. I never get to hang out with these particular cousins because they are related to my grandfather, who I will call Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone was my dad's dad, but my grandma was not his wife. Granny Billy was his wife. Dad got along with his half-sisters, his brothers, and some cousins always treated him a little funny, because he was the other lady's kid, that he looked the most like Rolling Stone. Myself, my dad, and Rolling Stone all look eerily similar. Not sure why those guys were such successful philanderers, and I just never was good with women. Skips a generation or two, I supposed. Anyway, because of all this, it was a rare and momentous occasion for me to be around my cousins and my Auntie Wilma, who I adored. I also particularly loved that Chuck E. Cheese. No other one I had ever been to had that sort of maze in the back corner, adjacent to where all the animatronics shows were. I loved Chuck E. Cheese, I loved the games, I liked the pizza, and I even liked the Chuck E. cheap toys that would break the next day. What I didn't love was the mascots. I was petrified of them, especially Chuck E. I thought Chuck E. was a damn demon with his cold dead eyes and disgusting body. Like kids today don't know what the old Chuck E. looked like. Dude was nightmare fuel. I also thought he was a demon because he would be on stage and then teleport and be somewhere walking around. I was a smart kid, but I was a kid. So instead of putting two and two together, I decided that instead of it being a reasonable explanation that he was a demon spawn. Parents, be careful what you read your kids at young age. My parents were into fantasy and stuff. I was read the Xanth novels from the age of 3. So all is well. I'm avoiding Chuck E. and the stage area and minding my own business, spending all of my coins on this new game, Captain Bucky O'Hare, that I was obsessed with trying to beat. Every time I'd run out of coins, I'd run back to the adults to get more, and every time there would be less adults. The kids were still around and playing, everyone's stuff was still there, but the adults were missing. Now I didn't get panicked about this until Auntie Wilma vanished and little Rob and Dee were still there. At first I ask, no one seems to know or care, they're all acting weird. I go around and ask the kids, and we began looking for them. Every adult that's still there is very weird, and I'm concerned that people have randomly vanished. We even went to look in the parking lot and they weren't. Their cars still there but not in the building. We went into bathrooms, in the maze, and all around looking for 30 minutes, nothing. After an hour we go to one of the adults and explain our situation and the fact that the cheese smell now smells weird. We are worried something is happening that just blow us off, so we go to the manager, some older woman who was mean as hell. We tell her we can't find our parents and that we are scared. I will never forget what this woman said. It's not my job to keep track of your parents, kid. They could have fallen off the side of the world for all I know, don't care. How about you leave me alone and figure it out on your own? We were stunned. I was led to believe that an adult can solve all our problems. Then Tapa says he last saw them talking to Chucky to Mario too. Says his mom and dad had been talking to Chucky. We go ask Chucky and he's all weird and vague and eventually tells us that's a secret and to go play. Now sensible child would have just done that. I was like way away listening to the conversation. I wasn't trying to get close to Dead Eyes over there, but hearing what he said convinced me of the truth. The adults were dead. Chucky is a monster. No one cares cause the fumes from the cheese is hypnotizing the adults. And they're chopping them up and putting them on the pizza. Yup, that is the only explanation. Mind you, I am the youngest. No one should be listening to me, but because I'm the smart one, no one challenges this stupid ass idea. We go around and talk to the other kids, ask them about their parents and the people who came with them. Of course, some adults who were once there were not, and we were able to convince most of them to help us get to the bottom of this. You recall thinking like rescue rangers or some shit. One kid, we'll call her Sally, suggested we go talk to boss lady, the manager. I looked that old bitch in the eyes from across the store and scowled. I remember saying she said to figure it out on our own. I bet she's one of them. No, I could not properly explain who they were. But like, trust me, they're bad and they're cutting up your parents and feeding them to us on the pizza. I was asked why the other adults didn't notice, and my response was the cheese, the smell is hypnotizing them. I guess I said the shit with such confidence the kids just went along with me. So first we needed to arm ourselves. We pooled our tickets and got those yellow plastic bats, jump ropes, water guns, small knockoff super soakers we filled with water, soda and hot pepper flakes. And we armed ourselves. There was like at least 15. Next we all hid in the maze and let the two little mum girls, I think they were twins, lure Chucky into the maze. Now the maze could be seen from outside. There was windows and stuff, but if you hid well you could easily hide 20 kids back there. More if you got up into the pipes. So when Chucky turned the corner, Pat and Cop pushed him over crease. He falls down and we get to wailing on this guy. We're shouting all kinds of shitty, and I think he gets the gist of what we're on about, attacking him. So we get his head off and find a person in there, and this asshole, instead of doing anything useful, some 16-year-old snot with the nippiest half braid fro ever eggs us on. He says some shit like, "Oh my god, thanks for saving me," and just plays along. Tells us that he used to be a kid playing games and they trapped him in the Chucky suit and made him their slave. Which was all the confirmation I needed to validate how completely right I was. We tied him up with the jump rope so if he turned back he couldn't hurt us, and we decided to assault the kitchen and save who was there. It was a mess, took about 15 minutes and every adult in the place to restore order. I shot that old bitch in the face with my gun and she screamed bloody murder. I was eventually stopped by Auntie Carissa and our liberation was ended. Now after this more parents showed up and they had us all in the front. The manager wanted to kick everybody the fuck out. I think it was Uncle Jay that stepped up and asked what was going on and who was responsible, and all of these little Benedict Arnolds dimed me out. But I didn't have a lick of sense, so I stood defiantly and told him what I did and why. He asked me sensible questions too, like why didn't I tell the adults or ask someone. I did, then asked me if I was stupid or if I thought if something was wrong they wouldn't notice. I confidently explained my brainwashing cheese smell theory. At this point everyone is kind of laughing, even the staff. Except the mean old bitch, cause she is like staring daggers at me with bloodshot eyes. I tell them I told her and she told me to figure it out, so I did. Only later did I find out what was really happening. So first and foremost, the parents were behind the Kmart getting high and drunk. You couldn't have liquor in there. The ones who were there were already high. The dude in Chucky's suit was actually kid of one of my uncle's friends. And he sold weed, mind you. I didn't find out any of that till I was a damn adult and my auntie had been retelling the story. So they took my picture and banned my ass. My dad was called cause I had to go home early. And yeah, I got like one of the top 10 ass whoopings of my life. Though was for a long time certain that something was still up with Chucky Cheese, cause you know the truth never came out while I was still a kid. TLDR. Funny story about how telling a kid to figure it out leads to a child insurrection in a Chuck E. Cheese.